Admiral Daeho Kim stood in the Grand Council chamber, watching thousands of alien representatives from across the galaxy. The massive space station rotated slowly around the planet below, its crystal walls showing the stars beyond. He had come, here with hope, but now he felt only anger building in his chest. Ambassador Sunmi Park sat at the human delegation table, her hands folded calmly. She had spent months preparing for this meeting. Humanity wanted new trade routes through the Andromeda Spiral. These routes would help human colonies get supplies faster and cheaper. It seemed like a simple request. The chamber fell silent as Queen Veltara of the Dominion Empire rose from her throne. She was tall and elegant, with silver skin that seemed to glow under the lights. Her empire controlled most of the galaxy's major trade routes. Without her permission, human ships would have to take much longer paths to reach their destinations. The humans request passage through our sacred territories, Queen Veltara said, her voice carrying across the chamber. They come before us, like beggars, asking for favors they have not earned. Admiral Daeho felt his jaw tighten. The Queen's words dripped with contempt. Around the chamber, other alien representatives watched with interest. Some looked amused, others seemed uncomfortable. Ambassador Sunmi stood up slowly. Your Majesty, we offer fair payment for these routes. Our proposal includes technology sharing and mutual defense agreements. This partnership would benefit both our peoples. Queen Veltara laughed, a cold sound that echoed off the crystal walls. Partnership? You speak as if humans are equals to the Dominion. Your species crawled out of their mud barely 2 centuries ago. You have no history, no culture, no strength worth acknowledging. The Queen walked down from her throne, her long robes flowing behind her. Look at your pathetic delegation. 3 humans in a chamber of thousands. Your entire military consists of what? A few hundred primitive ships? Metal scraps held together by hope and ignorance. Admiral Daeho's hands clenched into fists. He had served in the human fleet for 30 years. He had seen those ships in action. They were not primitive, but he stayed silent, following diplomatic protocol. Your Majesty, Ambassador Sunmi tried again. Humanity has proven itself capable of... Capable of what? Queen Veltara interrupted. Capable of surviving in the shadows while greater civilizations shape the galaxy? Capable of building colonies on worthless rocks that no one else wants? The Queen stopped directly in front of the human table. Her silver eyes looked down at them with pure disgust. I have seen insects with more dignity than your species. At least insects know their place in the natural order. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Even among the often brutal politics of galactic diplomacy, such open insult was rare. Admiral Daeho started to rise, but Ambassador Sunmi put a gentle hand on his arm. Humanity asks for respect and partnership, Sunmi said quietly. We offer friendship to all species. Friendship? Queen Veltara's voice rose. You offer nothing but contamination. Your species spreads like a disease, establishing colonies wherever you find empty space. You have no understanding of galactic order or proper civilization. The Queen turned to address the entire chamber. I declare here, before all assembled representatives, that humanity is unworthy of even the most basic considerations. They are not fit to serve as labor slaves, much less as trading partners. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Several alien delegates looked horrified at the Queen's words. The representative from the Altarian Republic shook his head sadly. Even some of the Dominion's allies seemed uncomfortable, but Queen Veltara was not finished. Furthermore, I order the immediate seizure of all human vessels currently in Dominion. Space. These ships will be confiscated as payment for the insult of their presence in our territory. Admiral Deho shot to his feet. You cannot simply steal our ships. Those vessels carry civilian crews and cargo. Queen Veltara smiled coldly. I am the queen of the Dominion Empire. I can do whatever serves my people's interests. Your pathetic fleet poses no threat to my forces. What will you do? Declare war with your metal scraps? The Queen's guards moved closer, their weapons clearly visible. The message was clear. The humans should leave before things got worse. Ambassador Sunmi stood slowly, her face pale but determined. Your Majesty has made her position clear. Humanity will remember this day. Remember it? Queen Veltara laughed again. You may remember it for the brief time your species has left. I grow tired of human pretensions. Perhaps it is time the galaxy was cleansed of your contamination entirely. The threat hung in the air like poison. Admiral Deho felt his blood turn cold. This was no longer about trade routes. The Queen had just threatened the existence of all humanity. Captain Jinwoo Lee, who had been standing silent near the chamber entrance, stepped forward. Admiral, our shuttle is ready for immediate departure. Admiral Deho nodded stiffly. There was nothing more to be gained here. The human delegation gathered their materials and walked toward the exit. Every step felt like a retreat, but Admiral Deho knew they had no choice. As they reached the door, Queen Veltara called out one final insult. Run back to your little blue world, humans. Tell your people that Queen Veltara has spoken. You have 48 hours to remove all human presence from Dominion space. After that, any human ship will be destroyed on sight. The chamber doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. In the corridor outside, Admiral Deho finally let his anger show. His fist slammed into the wall, leaving a small dent in the metal. Admiral, Captain Jinwoo said quietly, what are your orders? Admiral Deho looked at his young captain. Jinwoo had graduated top of his class from the Naval Academy. He commanded one of humanity's newest ships, but even Jinwoo had no idea what humanity was truly capable of. We return to Earth immediately, Admiral Deho said. Contact Luna Command. Tell them to prepare for Protocol 7. Captain Jinwoo's eyes widened. Protocol 7 was the highest level of military alert. It had never been used before. Sir, should I ask what? No questions, Captain. Just send the message. As their shuttle launched from the station, Admiral Deho watched the stars through the viewport. Somewhere out there, human trading ships were being seized by Dominion forces. Families were being separated. People who had done nothing wrong were becoming prisoners. Queen Veltara thought humanity was weak. She thought their ships were primitive metal scraps. She had no idea how wrong she was. Ambassador Sunmi sat beside him, her hands still folded, calmly. The Council will need to know what happened here. They will know, Admiral Deho replied, and soon the entire galaxy will know what happens when someone threatens humanity. The shuttle jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying news of the Queen's insult back to Earth. Behind them, Queen Veltara continued her speech to the Galactic Council, unaware that she had just made the biggest mistake in the history of her ancient empire. In hidden bases throughout the solar system, warning lights began to flash. Automated systems activated protocols that had been waiting for decades. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity had been preparing for this day. Since they first reached the stars, Queen Veltara wanted to see humanity's true strength. Soon, she would get her wish. The emergency session began 12 hours after Admiral Dae-Ho Kim's shuttle docked at Luna Station. The Human Defense Council chamber was buried deep inside Earth's moon, protected by layers of metal and rock. 27 people sat around the oval table, representing every human colony and military division. Fleet Admiral So-Young Han called the meeting to order. Her gray hair was pulled back severely, and her uniform bore the scars of 40 years of service. We all know why we are here. Queen Veltara has declared economic war on humanity. She has seized our ships and threatened our existence. The holographic display in the center of the table showed the latest reports. 43 human trading vessels had been captured in Dominion space. Over 2,000 civilians were now prisoners. Several Dominion fleets were moving toward the borders of human territory. The question, Admiral So-Young continued, is how we respond. General Kyung-Ho Nam slammed his fist on the table. We respond with force. No alien dictator can treat humanity like this. With what force? Asked Admiral Boram Jang from the Colonial Fleet. Our public fleet has 300 ships. The Dominion has thousands. Queen Veltara was right about one thing. We appear weak. We appear weak, said a new voice from the chamber entrance, because we choose to appear weak. Everyone turned. As Admiral Tae-Jin Choi entered the room. He walked with a slight limp from an old war injury, but his eyes were sharp and alert. Most of the council members had heard rumors about Admiral Tae-Jin's secret projects, but few knew the details. Fleet Admiral So-Young nodded to him. Admiral Tae-Jin, please share what the council needs to know. Admiral Tae-Jin activated his personal data pad. The holographic display changed, showing a complex star chart of the solar system. For the past 30 years, humanity has been preparing for exactly this situation. We knew that someday we would face a threat too large for conventional forces to handle. Red dots began appearing on the star chart. Behind asteroids, inside gas giant atmospheres, hidden in the outer darkness of the solar system. Hundreds of red dots scattered throughout human space. Project Sovereign, Admiral Tae-Jin announced. 1,000 supercarriers built in secret and hidden across 50 star systems. The chamber fell silent. Even Fleet Admiral So-Young looked stunned, though she had authorized the project's funding years ago. Engineer Hyun-Soo Park stood up from her seat near the back. She was young for such an important meeting, barely 35 years old, but her mind had designed technologies that surpassed anything the galaxy had seen. Each supercarrier, Hyun-Soo explained, is 3 kilometers long and carries 500 fighters. They are powered by controlled micro-black holes and equipped with quantum weapons systems. A single supercarrier could destroy a Dominion fleet by itself. Admiral Changmin Yu, a veteran of the Outer Rim conflicts, leaned forward. How is this possible? The resources alone would require asteroid mining operations, Admiral Tae-Jin interrupted. For 20 years, our commercial mining ships have been harvesting materials and building these vessels in hidden shipyards. The galaxy thinks we mine asteroids for profit. In reality, we mine them for war. The display zoomed in on one of the red dots. A massive ship appeared, sleek and deadly. Its hull was dark gray, almost black, designed to be invisible against the space background. Weapon ports lined its sides like the teeth of some ancient predator. The carriers are invisible to most sensors, Hyun-Soo continued. We developed stealth technology based on quantum field manipulation. Each ship exists in a state of dimensional phase shifting, making them nearly undetectable. Commander In-Soo Kim from Military Intelligence raised his hand. What about crews? 1,000. Supercarriers would require millions of personnel. 2,400,000 crew members, Admiral Tae-jin replied. All volunteers from the reserve fleets. They have been training in secret for years, using advanced simulation systems. Many families think their loved ones work in deep space, mining, or exploration. Fleet Admiral So Young stood up. Show them. The weapon systems. The holographic display changed again. The supercarrier's hull opened up, revealing internal structures. Massive weapon arrays extended from hidden compartments. Fighter bays the size of city blocks prepared to launch there. Deadly cargo. Quantum pulse cannons, Yun-Soo said, pointing to the largest weapons. They can destroy a battleship with a single shot. The fighters carry miniaturized versions of the same technology. Each fighter pilot uses neural interface implants for perfect coordination and reaction times. Admiral Dae-ho Kim, who had been silent since returning from the Galactic Council, finally spoke. How long to activate the full fleet? 48 hours, Admiral Tae-jin replied. The carriers are already crewed and supplied. We just need to send the activation codes. General Kyung-ho Nam was still trying to process the information. You built 1,000 supercarriers in secret. How did you hide something this massive? The same way we hide everything else, Admiral Tae-jin smiled grimly. We let the galaxy think we are weak and primitive. While they look down on us, we built the most advanced fleet in galactic history. The display showed more details. Each supercarrier was essentially a mobile city. They had manufacturing facilities, medical centers, even small farms for long-term operations. The crew could live on these ships for decades without needing to return to port. The power source alone is revolutionary, Yun-Soo explained. Micro black holes contained in quantum fields. Each carrier has enough power to supply a small planet. The technology is 50 years ahead of anything the Dominion possesses. Admiral So Young looked around the table. The question now is whether we use this fleet. Once we reveal our true strength, there is no going back. The galaxy will know that humanity has been deceiving them for decades. Queen Veltara forced our hand, Admiral Dae-ho said. She threatened to cleanse the galaxy of human contamination. We cannot let that stand. General Kyung-ho Nam nodded agreement. The Queen thinks we are insects. Time to show her what insects can do when they swarm. Fleet Admiral So Young called for a vote. All in favor of Operation Stellar Vindication? Every hand in the room went up. The decision was unanimous. Admiral Tae-jin, Fleet Admiral So Young commanded, send the activation codes. I want all 1,000 supercarriers ready for deployment within 48 hours. Admiral Tae-jin smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Already done, Admiral. I sent the codes when Queen Veltara made her threat. The fleet is awakening as we speak. Across the solar system, hidden bases received their orders. Ancient asteroids split open to reveal massive shipyards. Gas-giant atmospheres swirled as enormous shapes emerged from their depths. The darkness of space itself seemed to come alive as stealth fields deactivated. Captain Dongmin Park stood on the bridge of the supercarrier Earth's Vengeance as his ship powered up for the first time in combat mode. The crew had trained for this moment for 5 years. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humanity could really do. The supercarrier's engines ignited, controlled black holes spinning faster and faster. Around the ship, 499 fighters prepared for launch. Each pilot was connected to the ship's central computer through neural links, creating a hive mind of perfect coordination. Captain Dong Min opened a communication channel to the other carriers in his battle group. All ships report ready for operation. Similar scenes played out across human space. 1,000 supercarriers, hidden for decades, began their journey toward Dominion territory. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been planning for this war since they first reached the stars. Queen Veltara had called humanity weak. She had threatened their existence. Now she would face the consequences of her arrogance. The hidden arsenal of humanity was awakening, and nothing would ever be the same. Commander Kyung-min Yu stood on the bridge of the supercarrier Human Pride as it approached the Vega system. Through the main viewport, he could see the bright star that had guided human explorers for generations. Today, it would witness humanity's first real battle in decades. "Contact ahead," reported Lieutenant Yoon-ji Seo from the sensor station. 200 Dominion heavy cruisers in standard patrol formation. They are moving to intercept us. Commander Kyung-min nodded. Intelligence had predicted this encounter. The Vega system controlled the main jump route between human and Dominion space. Queen Veltara had stationed a large patrol fleet here to catch any human ships trying to enter her territory. "Signal the other carriers," Commander Kyung-min ordered. "Maintain formation and prepare fighters for launch." Behind the Human Pride, 49 other supercarriers moved through space like silent predators. Each ship was invisible to Dominion sensors, appearing only as small asteroids or space debris. The enemy had no idea what was coming toward them. On the Dominion flagship Eternal Glory, Admiral Carthen studied the sensor readings with confusion. His long, scaled face showed concern as he tried to understand what his instruments were. Telling him, "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "we detect 50 small objects approaching our position. They appear to be asteroids or ship debris." Admiral Carthen growled in frustration. "Asteroids do not move in perfect formation. Are you certain there are no human ships?" "Positive, sir. Our sensors show only small debris. Perhaps the humans sent unmanned probes to test our defenses." Admiral Carthen considered this possibility. It would be typical human cowardice to send machines instead of fighting themselves. "Destroy the debris. I want this system clear of human contamination." The Dominion fleet moved forward, their heavy cruisers spreading into attack formation. Each ship was 500 meters long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. 200 such vessels should be able to handle any threat from primitive human technology. Commander Kyung-min watched the enemy approach on his tactical display. "They still cannot see us. Perfect. All carriers. This is your commander. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity can do. Launch all fighters on my mark." The space around the 50 supercarriers suddenly exploded with activity. Fighter bays opened like the mouths of sleeping giants. Thousands of small ships poured out into space, each one carrying advanced quantum weapons and piloted by humans with neural enhancements. Pilot Min-ho Kang felt the familiar surge as his neural implant connected to his fighter's computer systems. Suddenly, he could see through the ship's sensors as if they were his own eyes. He could feel the engines as if they were his own muscles. Most importantly, he was connected to every other pilot in the squadron through a shared mental network. "All fighters, this is Squadron Leader Min-ho," he broadcast through the neural link. "Remember your training. Stay connected to the network. Fight as one mind with many bodies." The Dominion fleet was still approaching when their sensors finally detected the massive fighter swarm. Admiral Carthen stared at his displays in disbelief as thousands of small ships appeared from nowhere. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Where did they come from?" Before his sensor officer could answer, the human fighters attacked. They moved with perfect coordination, like a school of fish or a flock of birds. No communication was needed between them, because they shared thoughts through their neural links. The first wave of quantum pulses struck the Dominion cruisers before they could react. The alien ships had strong shields, but they were designed to protect against conventional weapons. Quantum energy passed through their defenses like they were made of paper. 3 Dominion cruisers exploded in the first seconds of the battle. Their fusion reactors went critical as quantum pulses disrupted the magnetic containment fields. The explosions lit up the Vega system like new stars. "All ships, return fire!" Admiral Carr then screamed. "Destroy those fighters!" The Dominion fleet tried to fight back, but they were facing an enemy unlike anything they had encountered before. The human fighters moved too fast and too precisely. They anticipated every Dominion attack through their shared consciousness. Pilot Min Ho felt the thoughts of his squadron mates as they danced through enemy fire. Pilot Su Jin warned him about incoming missiles from the left. Pilot Jun Seo shared, targeting data for a cruiser that was trying to escape. Together they were unstoppable. Commander Kyung Min watched the battle from his command chair with growing satisfaction. The enemy was in complete chaos. Their formations had broken apart, as ships tried to flee in different directions. "Sir," Lieutenant Yunji reported, "the Dominion fleet is trying to retreat. Should we pursue?" "Negative," Commander Kyung Min replied. "Let them run. We want survivors to tell Queen Veltara what happened here." The battle lasted exactly 1 hour and 47 minutes. When it ended, 197 Dominion heavy cruisers had been destroyed. The remaining 3 ships limped away toward Dominion space, their hulls scarred and their crews terrified. The human fleet had suffered 0 losses. A few fighters had minor damage from debris, but not a single pilot had been injured. The superiority of human technology was absolute. Admiral Carthen broadcast his final message from his dying flagship. "This is Admiral Carthen to any Dominion forces. The humans have some kind of advanced fleet. Thousands of fighters appeared from nowhere. Request immediate reinforcements." The transmission cut off as the eternal glory exploded. Admiral Carthen never lived to see Queen Veltara's reaction to his report. Pilot Minho guided his fighter back to the human pride as the supercarriers prepared to move deeper into Dominion space. Through his neural link, he could feel the satisfaction of his fellow pilots. They had proven themselves in their first real battle. "Well done, everyone," came Commander Kyung Min's voice over the communication system. "Today we sent a message to the galaxy. Humanity will not be bullied or threatened. We will defend ourselves with whatever force is necessary." The news of the Vega battle spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. Other alien species heard about the mysterious human fleet that had appeared from nowhere. Some began to wonder if the Dominion Empire was as invincible as they claimed. On distant worlds, resistance movements started to hope. Perhaps the time had come to throw off Dominion rule. Perhaps these humans could provide the strength needed to fight back against Queen Veltara's tyranny. But in the royal palace on the Dominion homeworld, Queen Veltara was consumed with rage. She smashed precious artifacts and screamed at her advisors. How could primitive humans destroy an entire fleet? How could they possess technology superior to her own? "Find out everything about these human ships," she commanded her intelligence chief. I want to know how they built them, where they came from, and how many they have. Then prepare our core fleets for war." The Queen's silver eyes glowed with fury as she stared at the star charts. She had ruled the galaxy for centuries. No upstart species would challenge her authority. If humanity wanted a war, she would give them a war that would burn their pathetic civilization to ash. But first, she needed to understand how the humans had become so powerful. The reports from Vega made no sense. Ships appearing from nowhere, weapons that ignored shields, pilots who fought with impossible coordination. It was as if humanity had become something more than they appeared to be. Queen Veltara did not know that she was facing the result of 30 years of secret preparation. She did not know about the 1,000 supercarriers or the quantum weapons, or the neural enhancement programs. All she knew was that her perfect fleet had been destroyed by an enemy she had dismissed as insects. The galaxy held its breath as news of the Vega battle reached every civilized world. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion Empire had suffered a major defeat. The question now was what would happen next. Commander Kyung-min had his orders. The 50 supercarriers under his command would continue advancing into Dominion, space, destroying any enemy forces they encountered. Behind them, 950 more supercarriers were moving into position for the war that was coming. Humanity had drawn first blood. Now they would show the galaxy that the age of Dominion rule was ending. Queen Veltara paced in her war room like a caged predator. The crystal walls displayed tactical information from across her empire. Red warning lights flashed as reports came in about human attacks on Dominion outposts. Her perfect military machine was being torn apart by an enemy she had called primitive insects. "Your Majesty," General Mortax approached carefully, "our intelligence reports are complete. The humans possess approximately 1,000 advanced carriers. Each ship carries hundreds of fighters with technology we do not understand." The Queen's silver claws scraped against the metal floor. 1,000 ships? How is this possible? Our spies reported only a few hundred human vessels. It appears they have been building in secret for decades, General Mortax continued. Hidden shipyards throughout their territory. They have been planning for this war since they first reached the stars. Queen Veltara turned to face her general. Her beautiful features were twisted with rage and something else, fear. For the first time in her long life, she faced an enemy that might actually defeat her. "Then we will hit them where they are weak," she declared. "Prepare 500 of our finest dreadnoughts. We attack their colonies directly. Kill their civilians, and they will surrender to save the rest." General Mortax hesitated. "Your Majesty, attacking civilian targets will turn other species against us. Many of our allies are already questioning our actions. I do not care about—" "Our allies!" Queen Veltara screamed. "The humans must be destroyed completely. Target their largest colony, Proxima Centauri. 50 million human civilians live there. When they see their people burning, they will kneel before me." In the Proxima Centauri system, Admiral Wonshik Jung stood on the command deck of the orbital defense station. His weathered face showed the strain of 40 years in space, but his eyes were alert and determined. Below him, the planet New Earth glowed blue and green in the light of 3 suns. "Admiral," Commander Haewon Kim reported from the sensor station, "long-range scanners detect a massive fleet approaching. 500 Dominion dreadnoughts, estimated arrival in 6 hours." "Admiral," Wonshik nodded grimly. They had expected this attack. Queen Veltara was predictable in her cruelty. When facing military defeat, she always turned to terrorism against civilians. Signal all defensive units, Admiral Wanshik commanded. Activate the hidden carriers. It is time to show the Dominion what happens when they threaten our families. Throughout the Proxima system, space itself seemed to come alive. Asteroids split open to reveal massive supercarriers. Gas clouds dispersed as hidden ships activated their engines. 150 human supercarriers emerged from concealment, surrounding the planet like protective guardians. Captain Hyejin Kim stood on the bridge of the supercarrier Defender's Hope as her ship powered up for battle. She was young, for a captain, only 32 years old, but she had trained for this moment her entire adult life. Her ship carried 500 of humanity's best fighter pilots. All stations report ready, her first officer announced. Fighters are prepared for launch. Captain Hyejin opened a communication channel to Admiral Wanshik. Admiral, the Defender's Hope is ready to protect our people. Good hunting, Captain, Admiral Wanshik replied. Remember, we are not just fighting for victory. We are fighting for the right of humanity to exist in this galaxy. The Dominion fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. General Mortax commanded from his flagship Death's Hand, a massive dreadnought armed with planet-killing weapons. He expected to find the human colony defended only by a few primitive ships. Instead, his sensors detected 150 supercarriers arranged in perfect defensive formation around the planet. Each ship was larger and more advanced than anything in his fleet. How can they have so many ships here? General Mortax demanded. Our intelligence said this colony had minimal defenses. His sensor officer was checking and rechecking the readings. Sir, the ships appear to have been hidden throughout the system. They are using some kind of advanced stealth technology. General Mortax felt a chill of fear. He commanded 500 of the Dominion's most powerful warships. But facing these mysterious human carriers, he was no longer confident of victory. All ships, attack formation, he ordered. We outnumber them more than 3 to 1. Even with their advanced technology, they cannot defeat us all. The Dominion dreadnoughts advanced in a massive wedge formation. Each ship was a kilometer long and carried enough firepower to destroy a moon. They opened fire while still at maximum range, sending thousands of energy beams toward the human fleet. The human response was immediate and devastating. Every supercarrier launched its full complement of fighters simultaneously. 75,000 small ships poured out of the carriers like an angry swarm. The space between the fleets filled with quantum fire as the fighters engaged the enemy dreadnoughts. Pilot Eugene Lee felt the familiar connection as her neural implants linked with her fighter systems. Around her, hundreds of other pilots shared the same enhanced consciousness. They moved as one mind controlling thousands of bodies. Target their command ships first, came the squadron leader's mental command. Break their coordination, then finish the rest. The human fighters attacked with surgical precision. They ignored the heavy weapons of the dreadnoughts and focused on destroying communication arrays and command centers. Within minutes, the Dominion fleet was blind and confused. General Mortax watched in horror as his carefully planned formation fell apart. His ships were firing in all directions, unable to coordinate their attacks. Many were hitting each other instead of the human fighters. Sir, his communications officer reported, we have lost contact with 60% of our fleet. The humans are targeting our communication systems. Then we use the planet killer, General Mortax declared. Charge the main gun. If we cannot defeat their fleet, we will destroy their colony. The Death's Hand began powering up its ultimate weapon, a device that could crack a planet's crust and kill everything on the surface. It would take several minutes to reach full power, but once fired, nothing could stop it. Captain Hyojin detected the energy buildup on her sensors. "Admiral, the enemy flagship is charging a planet-killer weapon. They intend to destroy the colony." Admiral Wanshik's response was immediate. "All ships, focus fire on that dreadnought. Stop them at all costs." The human fleet concentrated their attack on the Death's Hand, but the massive ship's shields held against their weapons. The planet killer continued charging, building up, enough energy to murder 50 million civilians. Captain Hyojin made a decision that would make her a legend. "All fighters, return to carriers," she ordered her pilots. "I am going to ram the enemy flagship." "Captain, no!" her first officer protested. "There must be another way." "There is no time," Captain Hyojin replied calmly. "Tell my family I died protecting our people." The supercarrier Defender's Hope turned toward the enemy flagship and accelerated to maximum speed. Captain Hyojin disabled all safety systems and pushed her engines beyond their design limits. The ship became a 3-kilometer missile aimed at the heart of the Dominion fleet. General Mortax watched the human carrier approaching on his main screen. "All weapons, fire on that ship! Do not let it reach us!" Energy beams struck the defenders. Hope from dozens of directions, but Captain Hyojin kept coming. Her ship's armor melted away under the assault, but the core structure held together long enough to reach its target. The collision was visible from the planet below. The Defender's Hope struck the Death's Hand at nearly the speed of light, and both ships vanished in an explosion that lit up the entire system. The planet-killer weapon exploded before it could fire, taking half the Dominion fleet with it. General Mortax died instantly, along with Captain Hyojin and her entire crew, but their sacrifice saved 50 million human lives and broke the back of the Dominion attack. The remaining Dominion ships fled in panic. They had lost over 300 dreadnoughts and their commanding general. The human fleet had lost only one carrier, but that loss was felt throughout the human military. Admiral Wanshik broadcast a message to all human forces. Captain Hyojin Kim died as she lived, protecting those who could not protect themselves. Her sacrifice will not be forgotten. Let the galaxy know that humanity will pay any price to defend our people. The news of the Proxima battle spread quickly. Other species began to realize that the humans were not only technologically superior to the Dominion, but they were willing to sacrifice themselves for their beliefs. This was a dangerous combination for any enemy to face. Queen Veltara received the reports in her throne room. Her beautiful face was now twisted with permanent rage. Not only had her fleet been defeated, but one of her best generals was dead. The humans had turned her attack into a disaster. "Recall all our forces," she commanded. "Bring every ship in the Empire back to the core worlds. If the humans want a war, they will face our full strength." The Queen did not yet understand that. She was not fighting a war against human ships. She was fighting a war against human determination. And that was a war she could never win. In the wreckage of the battle, search teams looked for survivors from the Defender's Hope. They found Captain Hyojin's command chair, melted but still recognizable. On it was a message. News of humanity's victories spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In hidden bases and secret meeting rooms, representatives of oppressed species gathered to discuss what they had witnessed. The impossible had happened. Someone had defeated the Dominion Empire in open battle. Ambassador Talvin of the Altarian Republic stood before his planetary council, his blue skin pale with excitement. "Fellow councilors, we have waited 3 centuries for this moment. The Dominion's grip on our worlds is weakening. Perhaps it is time to act." The Altarian Republic had been conquered by the Dominion 50 years ago. Their people lived under harsh occupation, forced to mine rare metals for the Queen's war machine. But now, hope flickered in their hearts for the first time in decades. "You speak of allying with aliens we barely know," cautioned Elder Rendar. "How can we trust these humans? What if they are simply replacing one tyrant with another?" Ambassador Talvin activated a holographic display showing the battle at Proxima Centauri. "Watch how they fight, Elder. See how one of their captains sacrificed herself to save civilians. This is not the behavior of conquerors." Similar discussions were happening throughout the galaxy. On Rigel Prime, the warrior clans watched recordings of human fighters moving in perfect coordination. Their own military traditions valued individual skill above all else, but they recognized the deadly effectiveness of the human approach. Chief Warrior Bakhtar addressed his clan leaders. "These humans fight like a pack, each warrior connected to the others. It is a new way of war, and it is winning against impossible odds." The Rigel clans had resisted Dominion rule for 2 centuries, fighting a guerrilla campaign from hidden mountain bases. They had lost countless warriors in hopeless battles against superior forces. But these humans offered something new, a chance for actual victory. Meanwhile, in the royal palace on the Dominion homeworld, Queen Veltara faced the worst crisis of her reign. The massive throne room that had once been filled with tribute from across the galaxy now echoed with the reports of defeat after defeat. "Your Majesty," Admiral Zekron approached the throne carefully. "Our forces are being recalled from the outer sectors. Every available ship is returning to defend the core worlds." Queen Veltara rose from her crystal throne, her silver robes flowing around her like liquid metal. "How many ships will we have for the final battle?" 12,000, Your Majesty. Every dreadnought, cruiser, and destroyer in the Empire. It is the largest fleet ever assembled." The Queen's silver eyes reflected the light from the crystal walls. "Good. Let the humans come. When they see the full might of my empire, they will remember their place in the natural order." But Queen Veltara did not know that humanity was also assembling their forces. In hidden bases throughout human space, the 1,000 supercarriers were organizing into 10 massive battle groups. Each group was commanded by humanity's finest officers, veterans who had trained their entire careers for this moment. Admiral Gitai Shin stood on the bridge of the supercarrier Earth's Fury as his battle group assembled in the asteroid belt of the Wolf 359 system. Around him, 99 other supercarriers moved into perfect formation. Each ship carried 500 fighters and enough supplies for months of combat. "Admiral," Captain Seojin Bayek reported from the communication station, "all battle groups report ready. We have achieved full mobilization ahead of schedule." Admiral Gitai nodded with satisfaction. The human fleet was not just larger than anyone expected. It was better organized and more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. But numbers and technology alone would not win this war. They needed allies. That mission fell to Commander Eugene Nam, humanity's expert on alien relations. She had spent years studying other species, learning their languages and customs. Now, she traveled secretly between worlds, making contact with resistance movements and independent governments. On the Altarian capital world, Commander Eugene met with Ambassador Talvin in an abandoned mining facility. The meeting was dangerous for both of them. If the Dominion discovered their alliance, millions would die in retaliation. "The Altarian Republic offers you our support," Ambassador Talvin declared. "Our fleet is small, but our pilots are skilled. More importantly, We know the locations of Dominion supply bases throughout this sector. Commander Eugene bowed respectfully. Humanity accepts your alliance with gratitude. Together, we can free the galaxy from Dominion tyranny. Similar meetings were taking place across dozens of worlds. The warrior clans of Rigel pledged their fierce fighters. The merchant guilds of Vega offered their knowledge of trade routes and supply lines. Even some Dominion colonies began secretly supporting the human cause, but the most daring operation was led by Captain Dong Hyun An, who commanded the Special Forces unit aboard the supercarrier Silent Strike. His mission was to destroy the Dominion's primary shipyard at Arcturus, eliminating their ability to build new vessels. The Arcturus shipyard was a massive space station orbiting a gas giant. It was heavily defended by automated weapons platforms and a garrison fleet of 200 ships. But Captain Dong Hyun had studied the station's blueprints for months, looking for weaknesses. "Remember the plan," Captain Dong Hyun told his team as their stealth fighters approached the station. "We hit the fusion reactor simultaneously. The explosion will chain through the entire facility." The operation required perfect timing. 20 stealth fighters had to penetrate the station's defenses, plant quantum charges on the main reactors, and escape before the charges detonated. If even one fighter was detected early, the entire mission would fail. Lieutenant Mi Sun-jung piloted her fighter through the maze of defensive satellites surrounding the station. Her ship's stealth systems made her invisible to sensors, but she still had to avoid visual detection by enemy patrols. The fighters reached their targets without being discovered. The quantum charges were placed and armed. Captain Dong Hyun gave the signal to retreat just as the first explosion lit up the darkness of space. The Arcturus shipyard died in a chain reaction of explosions that could be seen from the surface of the gas giant below. Decades of construction were destroyed in minutes. The Dominion had lost their primary source of new warships just as they needed them most. Admiral Dae-ho Kim watched the destruction from the bridge of his flagship as the human fleet began its final approach to Dominion space. Around him, 1,000 supercarriers moved through the darkness like a school of predators sensing blood in the water. "Signal all battle group commanders," Admiral Dae-ho ordered. "Begin Operation Stellar Vindication. The galaxy will know that humanity cannot be threatened with impunity." The 10 battle groups spread out across multiple star systems, each one targeting key Dominion facilities. Their orders were simple: destroy everything that could support the enemy war effort. Space stations, supply depots, communication relays, all were marked for destruction. Queen Veltara received reports of the attacks in her war room. Red lights flashed across the galaxy map as human forces struck at targets throughout her empire. Her beautiful face showed confusion as well as rage. "How are they everywhere at once?" she demanded. "Our intelligence said they had only 1,000 ships." "Your Majesty," her intelligence chief replied nervously, "the humans appear to have divided their fleet into smaller groups. They are attacking multiple targets simultaneously." The Queen studied the tactical display with growing understanding. The humans were not just fighting a war, they were fighting a campaign. Every attack was coordinated with every other attack. Supply lines were being severed, communication networks were being destroyed, and isolated Dominion forces were being eliminated one by one. "Recall all our ships to the core worlds immediately," Queen Veltara commanded. "We will make our stand at the home system. Let the humans come to us." But the human commanders had anticipated this strategy. As the Dominion fleet concentrated around their home worlds, the human battle groups began to converge on the same destination. The final battle would be fought in the system where Queen Veltara had ruled for centuries. Admiral Daeho Kim stood on his bridge as the human fleet assembled for the assault on the Dominion home system. Behind him, 1,000 supercarriers prepared for the greatest battle in galactic history. Ahead lay an enemy fleet of 12,000 ships defending their most precious worlds. All ships, Admiral Daeho broadcast to the entire human fleet, remember why we fight. We fight for the right to exist freely in this galaxy. We fight for the colonies that the Queen threatened to destroy. We fight for every species that has suffered under Dominion tyranny. The human fleet entered the outer reaches of the Dominion home system, their quantum engines leaving trails of distorted space behind them. In the distance, Queen Veltara's armada waited like a wall of steel and fire. The galaxy held its breath, as two civilizations prepared to decide the future of all sentient life. One fought to preserve an empire built on conquest and fear. The other fought for the simple right to exist as free beings. Soon the stars themselves would witness which cause was stronger. Queen Veltara stood in the command center of her flagship, Eternal Dominion, a massive vessel 5 kilometers long and bristling with enough weapons to destroy entire fleets. Through the crystal viewports, she could see her armada stretching across space. 12,000 ships arranged in perfect formation around the Dominion homeworlds. Your Majesty, Admiral Carthen reported, the human fleet has been detected at the edge of our system. 1,000 carriers, just as our intelligence predicted. The Queen's silver claws scraped against the command rail as she studied the tactical display. Each human ship appeared as a red dot on the screen, small and insignificant compared to the massive blue symbols representing her own fleet. But she had learned not to underestimate these particular enemies. "Send them a final message," Queen Veltara commanded. "Give them one last chance to surrender before I destroy them completely." The communication beam reached the human fleet. Within seconds, Admiral Daeho Kim received the transmission on the bridge of his flagship Human Destiny and listened to the Queen's words with a face carved from stone. "Humans," Queen Veltara's voice echoed through the bridge, "you have caused enough destruction with your primitive tricks. I offer you one final opportunity to surrender. Kneel before the rightful ruler of this galaxy, and your deaths will be quick and merciful." Admiral Daeho Kim stood slowly and activated the return communication channel. Behind him, the bridge crew watched as their commander prepared to give humanity's answer to the Queen's ultimatum. "Queen Veltara," Admiral Daeho said calmly, "humanity has only one response to your offer. We are human. We bow to no one." The communication ended with those words. Across both fleets, ships prepared for the battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy. There would be no more negotiations, no more diplomatic solutions. Only the test of strength that would determine which civilization had the right to exist. Queen Veltara's rage exploded like a supernova. She had offered these insects mercy, and they had thrown it back in her face. Very well. If they wanted to die as heroes, she would grant their wish. "All ships, attack formation," the Queen commanded. "I want those carriers destroyed down to their last rivet. Show no mercy to any human vessel." The Dominion fleet began to advance, their ships moving in the traditional battle formation that had conquered the galaxy for centuries. Dreadnoughts in the center, heavy cruisers on the flanks, destroyers screening the advance. It was a formation designed to maximize firepower and minimize losses. But Admiral Changwu Bei, commanding the human advance guard from the Supercarrier, Starbreaker, had spent years studying Dominion tactics. He knew exactly how the enemy would attack, and he had prepared a response that would turn their own strength against them. "All ships, implement Formation Omega," Admiral Chang Wu ordered. "Let them come to us." The human fleet spread out across a wide front, each supercarrier positioned to support its neighbors while maintaining maximum firing angles. It looked like a defensive formation, but appearances were deceiving. The humans were not trying to protect themselves. They were creating a trap. The first contact occurred at the edge of the Alpha Centauri asteroid belt. 2,000 Dominion ships encountered Admiral Chang Wu's 100 carriers in what the enemy expected to be a crushing victory. The numerical advantage was 20-1 in favor of the Dominion. Captain Mi Young watched from her ship's bridge as the enemy fleet approached. Her supercarrier Quantum Dawn carried the most advanced weapons in the human arsenal, experimental, cannons that could fire quantum energy bursts capable of destroying multiple targets with a single shot. "Enemy fleet entering maximum range," her weapons officer reported. "All quantum cannons charged and ready." "Target their command ships first," Captain Mi Young ordered. "Break their coordination, then finish the rest." The human fleet opened. Fire simultaneously, 1,000 quantum pulses lancing out toward the advancing Dominion ships. The enemy had expected conventional energy weapons that their shields could absorb. Instead, they faced technology that bypassed their defenses entirely. Dominion dreadnoughts began exploding before their crews even realized they were under attack. Quantum energy tore through their hulls like they were made of paper. Command. Ships vanished in brilliant flashes of light as their fusion reactors went critical. Admiral Carthen watched in horror from his command ship as half his advance fleet disappeared in the first minutes of battle. His careful formation dissolved into chaos as ships tried to retreat from weapons they could not defend against. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our shields should protect us from any energy weapon." "Sir," his science officer replied with fear in his voice, "these are not conventional weapons. The humans are using some kind of quantum manipulation technology. Our shields are useless against it." The battle that Queen Veltara had expected to win easily was turning into a massacre. The human carriers launched their fighters. 75,000 small ships that moved with perfect coordination through their neural links. The Dominion pilots, trained for individual combat, could not match their enemy's unified consciousness. Pilot Junwoo Park felt the thoughts of his squadron mates as they swept through the enemy formation. His fighter's quantum pulse cannon destroyed a Dominion destroyer with a single shot. Around him, thousands of other pilots shared targeting data and tactical information through their mental connection. The Dominion fleet was breaking apart under the assault. Ships fled in all directions, abandoning their formation and their mission. Admiral Carthen tried to rally his forces, but quantum pulses were destroying his communication relays faster than he could repair them. "Your Majesty," Admiral Carthen transmitted to Queen Veltara's flagship, "the advance fleet is destroyed. The humans have weapons we cannot counter, requesting immediate reinforcement." Queen Veltara received the transmission in her command center and felt ice flowing through her veins. How could 2,000 of her finest ships be defeated by 100 human carriers? It was impossible. Yet the sensor readings confirmed the disaster. "Bring the main fleet forward," the Queen commanded. "If conventional tactics will not work, we will use unconventional methods." The Queen's flagship led the remaining 10,000 Dominion ships toward the human position. But Queen Veltara was no longer thinking like a military commander. Her rage had overcome her strategic judgment. She was thinking like a predator wounded by its prey. "Prepare the planet killer weapons," Queen Veltara ordered. If we cannot defeat their fleet, we will destroy their homeworlds. Let them choose between surrendering and watching their planets burn." Admiral Carthen stared at his queen in shock. "Your Majesty, using planet killers against civilian targets will turn the entire galaxy against us. Even our allies will abandon us." "I do not care!" Queen Veltara screamed. "These insects must be taught their place. Charge all planet killer weapons and target the human colony worlds." Across the Dominion fleet, massive weapons began powering up. Each planet killer could crack the crust of a world and kill everything on the surface. The Queen was preparing to commit genocide on a scale that would shock even her own people. But the Queen's decision had consequences she did not expect. Many Dominion officers had signed up to defend their empire, not to murder innocent civilians. In the engine rooms and weapon bays of her ships, crew members began to question their loyalty. Chief Engineer Nectar stood in the power core of the dreadnought Iron Fist and stared at the controls for the planet killer weapon. His orders were clear: charge the weapon and prepare to destroy human colonies, but his conscience rebelled against the command. "Sir," his assistant asked nervously, "should we begin the charging sequence?" Chief Engineer Nectar hesitated. He had served the Dominion for 40 years. He had fought in a dozen wars and followed every order without question. But this was different. This was not war. This was extermination. "Not yet," he said finally. "We wait for direct confirmation from the Queen herself." Similar scenes played out across the Dominion fleet. Officers and crew members found excuses to delay the charging of planet killer weapons. Some claimed equipment malfunctions, others requested clarification of their orders. A few simply refused to participate in genocide. Admiral Daeho Kim detected the energy buildups on his sensors and realized what Queen Veltara was planning. The reports from his intelligence officers confirmed his worst fears. The Queen was preparing to destroy human colonies if she could not defeat the human fleet. "All battle groups," Admiral Daeho broadcast to his fleet. "The enemy is preparing planet killer weapons. We cannot allow them to threaten civilian populations. All ships, maximum attack speed. We end this now." The human fleet surged forward like a wave of death. 1,000 supercarriers and their fighter escorts accelerated toward the Dominion Armada with quantum engines running at maximum power. They had come to this system to fight a battle. Now they were fighting to save the lives of billions of innocent people. Queen Veltara watched the human advance on her tactical display and smiled coldly. Let them come. When they saw her planet-killer weapons fire, they would realize that threatening the Dominion Empire carried a price too high for any species to pay. But the Queen did not know that her own officers were beginning to turn against her. Genocide was a line that Queen Veltara's armada entered the solar system like a plague of metal locusts. 8,000 ships, all that remained of her once mighty fleet, moved toward Earth with the desperate fury of a dying empire. She had lost thousands of vessels in the previous battles, but she still believed that sheer numbers would give her victory. "Deploy the planet-killer weapons," Queen Veltara commanded from her flagship bridge. "Target Earth's sun. If I cannot rule these humans, then no one will." The massive weapons began charging their exotic matter cores. Each device could destabilize a star's fusion process, causing it to go supernova and destroy everything in the system. It was the ultimate act of spite from a ruler who preferred to see the galaxy burn rather than accept defeat. But Queen Veltara had made a critical error. She expected to find Earth defended by the remaining human carriers, perhaps 2 or 300 ships at most. Instead, as her fleet passed Jupiter's orbit, space itself seemed to explode with hidden enemies. 900 supercarriers emerged from concealment throughout the solar system. They had been waiting in the shadows of asteroids, hidden within the atmospheres of gas giants, even concealed inside the corona of the sun itself, using advanced shielding technology. Admiral Junho Ryu commanded the Mars Defense Group from his flagship Red Planet's shield. His 100 carriers had been hiding behind the planet's moons, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As the Dominion fleet passed his position, he gave the order that would begin humanity's greatest battle. All ships, launch fighters, show them what happens when someone threatens our home. 50,000 fighters poured out of the Martian carriers like an angry swarm. Their quantum engines left trails of blue fire as they accelerated toward the enemy fleet. Each pilot was connected to the others through neural links, creating a single mind controlling thousands of deadly weapons. At the same time, Captain Sujin Bayek activated the Jupiter orbital fortresses. These massive platforms had been disguised as mining stations for decades. Now they revealed their true nature as the largest weapons ever built by humanity. Quantum cannons the size of skyscrapers began firing at the Dominion fleet. Target their command ships, Captain Sujin ordered. Break their ability to coordinate the attack. The first salvo from the Jupiter platforms destroyed 50 Dominion dreadnoughts in a matter of seconds. Quantum energy beams cut through space like swords of light, each one capable of vaporizing multiple enemy ships. Queen Veltara stared at her tactical display in disbelief. Her fleet was under attack from every direction. Ships that should not exist were emerging from hiding places throughout the system. Weapons of impossible power were tearing her armada apart. How many ships do they have? She screamed at her sensor officer. Unknown, Your Majesty. Our sensors detect carriers throughout the entire system. They appear to have been hidden for decades. The Queen's silver face twisted with rage and fear. She had walked into the greatest trap in military history. The humans had turned their own home system into a killing field designed specifically to destroy her invasion fleet. Engineer Hyun-Soo Park watched the battle from her command station deep within Earth's crust. She had spent 20 years designing the system's defensive network, and now she finally got to see it in action. Around the solar system, thousands of automated defense platforms activated their weapons. These platforms had been disguised as space debris, old satellites, and asteroid fragments. No one had suspected that humanity had turned every piece of junk in their system into a weapon. Now they revealed themselves as the most comprehensive defense network ever constructed. Activate the solar collector array, Engineer Hyun-Soo commanded. Channel the sun's energy directly to the defense platforms. Massive mirrors hidden throughout the system began focusing solar energy into concentrated beams. The defense platforms used this power to fire quantum pulses with the strength of small suns. Dominion ships died by the dozens as invisible weapons, struck them from unexpected directions. The battle raged across multiple planets and moons. Near Venus, Admiral Tae-Young Kim led his carriers in a running fight with a Dominion battle group. His ships used the planet's thick atmosphere for cover, emerging to fire devastating volleys before disappearing back into the acidic clouds. Commander In-Ho Park coordinated the asteroid belt defenses from his hidden command center. His weapons platforms were built into the largest asteroids, invisible until they opened fire. Dominion ships trying to use the asteroid field for cover found themselves trapped in a maze of death. But the most intense fighting occurred around Earth itself. Admiral Daeho Kim had positioned 200 carriers in a defensive shell around humanity's home world. These were his finest ships and most experienced crews, the guardians of human civilization. "Remember," Admiral Daeho broadcast to his fleet, "we are not just defending a planet. We are defending the idea that free beings have the right to exist without bowing to tyrants." The Dominion fleet pressed their attack with desperate fury. They knew this was their last chance to break human resistance. If they failed here, their empire would collapse, and Queen Veltara would face the judgment of her own people. Pilot Kyung-Hwan Lee flew his fighter through the space between Earth and its moon, engaging Dominion interceptors in deadly combat. His neural link connected him to hundreds of other pilots, allowing them to fight as a single organism with many bodies. The space around Earth lit up like a festival of death. Quantum pulses crossed energy beams in a deadly light show visible from the planet's surface. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes that briefly outshone the stars. Queen Veltara realized that her conventional forces could not win this battle. Too many of her ships had been destroyed, and the human defenses were too strong. She had only one weapon left, the planet killer aimed at Earth's sun. "Fire the solar destabilizer," she commanded. "If we cannot conquer Earth, we will destroy it." But the Queen's order met with unexpected resistance. Chief Engineer Nektar, who had been questioning his loyalty throughout the battle, finally found the courage to disobey. "I cannot carry out that order, Your Majesty," he reported over the communication system. "I will not be responsible for the extinction of an entire system." Similar reports came in from across the Queen's fleet. Engineers, weapon officers, even ship captains were refusing to participate in genocide. The Queen's own people were rebelling against her madness. "Traitors!" Queen Veltara screamed. "I will execute every one of you." Admiral Carthan, the Queen's most loyal officer, watched his commanders break down with growing horror. He had served her for 50 years, but he could no longer follow a leader who had lost all sense of honor. "Your Majesty," Admiral Carthan said quietly, "perhaps it is time to consider surrender. We have lost this war." Queen Veltara turned on her admiral with fury in her silver eyes. "Surrender? I am the Queen of the Dominion Empire. I do not surrender to insects." The Queen drew her ceremonial weapon, a blade of crystallized energy that could cut through any material. She advanced on Admiral Carthan with murder in her heart, no longer a military commander but a predator driven mad by defeat. But before she could strike, the bridge of her flagship shook under the impact of quantum pulse fire. Human fighters had penetrated the ship's defenses and were attacking the command center directly. Admiral Daeho Kim had identified the Queen's flagship and ordered a concentrated assault. If they could capture or kill Queen Veltara, the war would end immediately. The remaining Dominion forces would surrender rather than continue fighting for a dead tyrant. "Boarding parties prepare for assault," Admiral Daeho commanded. "We end this war today." Throughout the solar system, the Dominion fleet was collapsing. Ships surrendered by the hundreds as their crews realized the hopelessness of their situation. Others fled toward the outer reaches of the system, abandoning their queen to save their own lives. Queen Veltara stood alone on her bridge, surrounded by the bodies of officers who had tried to stop her madness. In her hands, she held a remote control for the ship's self-destruct system. If she could not win, she would take as many humans with her as possible. "Come then, insects," she whispered to the approaching boarding parties. "Let us see how many of you die with your queen." The battle for the solar system was reaching its climax. The fate of the galaxy would be decided in the next few minutes. in the corridors of a dying flagship where the last tyrant prepared to make her final stand. Humanity had proven they could defend their home. Now they had to prove they could end a war without becoming the monsters they had fought against. The future of all civilized life hung in the balance as human Marines prepared to storm the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and face the Mad Queen in her final moments of power. The assault shuttles Stormbreaker and Lightning Strike, attached to the hull of Queen Veltara's flagship like parasites on a dying whale. Inside each shuttle, 20 human Marines checked their quantum rifles and neural interface helmets. They were about to board the most heavily defended ship in the galaxy to capture the most dangerous ruler in galactic history. Admiral Dae-Ho Kim led the first boarding party personally. He had started this war as humanity's representative at a diplomatic meeting. Now he would end it by facing Queen Veltara in single combat if necessary. Behind him, Captain Jin-Woo Lee and Commander Sung-Ho Lim prepared their squads for the assault. "Remember," Admiral Dae-Ho said as they cut through the flagship's hull, "we want the Queen alive if possible. A dead martyr is more dangerous than a living prisoner." The Marines broke through into the ship's corridors and immediately faced heavy resistance. Dominion soldiers fired energy weapons from behind makeshift barricades, but the human Marines fought with coordination that the enemy could not match. Their neural links allowed them to share tactical information instantly. Commander Sung-Ho Lim's squad flanked the first defensive position while Captain Jin-Woo Lee's team provided covering fire. The Dominion soldiers, trained for individual combat, could not adapt to enemies who fought as a single mind with many bodies. "Bridge is 3 levels up," Commander Sung-Ho reported through the neural link. "Heavy resistance on every level. They are fighting to the death." The humans advanced through the ship level by level, facing desperate defenders who knew their empire was dying around them. Some Dominion soldiers surrendered when they realized the hopelessness of their situation. Others fought with the fury of beings who had nothing left to lose. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Queen Veltara stood among the bodies of her own officers. She had killed Admiral Carthen when he tried to stop her from activating the ship's self-destruct system. Now she waited alone, her crystalline blade glowing with deadly energy. "Your Majesty," came a voice from the ship's communication system. It was Admiral Dae-Ho Kim, speaking from the corridor outside the bridge. "Surrender now, and your people will be treated with honor. Continue fighting, and you will die alone and forgotten." Queen Veltara laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Honor? You speak of honor to the rightful ruler of the galaxy? I am Queen Veltara of the Dominion Empire. I do not surrender to insects." The bridge doors exploded inward as human Marines breached the final barrier. Admiral Dae-Ho Kim stepped through the smoke, his quantum rifle aimed at the Queen's heart. Behind him, Captain Jin-Woo Lee and his squad spread out to cover all possible escape routes. Queen Veltara stood in the center of her ruined bridge, her silver robes stained with the blood of her own people. In one hand she held her energy blade. In the other she held the remote control for the ship's self-destruct system. "One step closer," the Queen warned, "and I detonate this ship. We will all die together in the flames of my empire." Admiral Dae-Ho Kim studied his enemy carefully. He could see the madness in her silver eyes, the rage that had consumed her rational mind. This was no longer a military commander. This was a cornered animal willing to destroy everything rather than face defeat. "Your empire is already dead," Admiral Dae-Ho said calmly. "Your fleets are destroyed or surrendered. Your people are abandoning you. You have nothing left to fight for except your own pride." Pride? Queen Veltara screamed. You dare speak to me of pride? I have ruled this galaxy for centuries. I am the apex of civilization. You are nothing but primitive apes who learned to use tools. Captain Jinwoo Lee moved carefully to the Queen's left side while she focused on Admiral Daeho. His neural implant was connected to the squad's tactical network, allowing him to coordinate with his commander without speaking. Your civilization, Admiral Daeho continued, was built on the suffering of others. You conquered free peoples and forced them to serve your vision of order. That is not civilization. That is tyranny. Queen Veltara raised her energy blade above her head. Then I am a tyrant, and a tyrant's death should shake the foundations of reality itself. The Queen brought her blade down toward the self-destruct control, but Captain Jinwoo Lee was faster. His quantum rifle fired a single pulse that struck the Queen's hand, vaporizing the remote control before she could activate it. Queen Veltara spun toward Captain Jinwoo with her blade extended, but Admiral Daeho was already moving. His rifle fired twice, once to destroy the Queen's weapon and once to knock her to the deck. She fell hard, her silver blood pooling beneath her wounded body. It is over, Admiral Daeho said as Commander Sung-Ho Lim secured the Queen with quantum restraints. The war ends here. But Queen Veltara had one final act of defiance. Hidden in her robes was a small device, a personal fusion grenade that would destroy the entire bridge. She activated it with her dying breath, choosing to take her enemies with her rather than face the humiliation of capture. Captain Jinwoo Lee detected the energy surge on his scanner. "Grenade! Everyone out!" The human Marines had seconds to escape before the bridge exploded. But there was no time to reach the corridor. Commander Sung-Ho Lim grabbed the wounded Queen and threw her toward the emergency escape pods while Admiral Daeho activated his suit's emergency shields. The explosion tore through the bridge like the birth of a small star, but the human Marines' quantum armor protected them from the worst of the blast. When the smoke cleared, they found Queen Veltara's body among the wreckage. She had died as she lived, choosing destruction over surrender. Admiral Daeho Kim stood over the body of the galaxy's former ruler and felt no satisfaction in her death. "Signal all Dominion forces," he commanded. "Tell them their queen is dead. The war is over." Throughout the solar system, the remaining Dominion ships received the news with a mixture of relief and despair. Some officers ordered their ships to continue fighting, but their crews refused to follow suicidal commands. One by one, the surviving vessels surrendered or fled toward the outer rim of the galaxy. The massive space battle that had raged for 12 hours finally came to an end. Earth remained safe, the human fleet was victorious, and the Dominion Empire had collapsed. But Admiral Daeho Kim knew that winning the war was only the beginning of humanity's challenges. 3 months later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on Luna Station for the signing of the Galactic Peace Accords. Ambassador Sunmi Park, who had endured Queen Veltara's insults at the beginning of the war, now presided over the creation of a new galactic government. "We gather here," Ambassador Sunmi announced to the assembled delegates, "not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals seeking to build a better future for all sentient beings." The former Dominion territories were divided among the species that had lived there for centuries. The Altarian Republic regained their independence, while the warrior clans of Rigel established their own confederation. Dozens of worlds that had been enslaved for generations tasted freedom for the first time. But not all the changes were political. Admiral Tae-jin Choi revealed the existence of Project Sovereign to the galaxy, sharing humanity's advanced technologies with their new allies. Quantum weapons, neural interface systems, and faster-than-light communication networks were offered freely to all peaceful species. Engineer Hyun-Soo Park found herself leading a team of scientists from 20 different worlds, all working together to develop new technologies for exploration rather than war. The same quantum manipulation that had powered humanity's weapons now drove peaceful research into the mysteries of the universe. The 1,000 supercarriers that had won the war were reorganized into the Galactic Peacekeeping Force. Admiral Dae-ho Kim became the first Supreme Commander, leading ships crewed by humans, Altarians, Rigelians, and even former Dominion citizens who had chosen cooperation over conquest. Captain Jin-Woo Lee stood on the bridge of the supercarrier New Dawn as it patrolled the Outer Rim territories. His crew included officers from 6 different species, all working together to protect trade routes and investigate distress calls. The ship that had once been a weapon of war was now a symbol of hope. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Hye-Young Nam, a young Altarian officer, "we are receiving a distress call from the Tau Ceti system. A merchant convoy is under attack by pirates." "Set course for Tau Ceti," Captain Jin-Woo ordered. "Maximum speed. Let's show these pirates what happens when they threaten innocent civilians." The New Dawn jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying its mixed crew toward their first mission as peacekeepers. It was a perfect symbol of the new galaxy. Different. Species working together for the common good. On Earth, Fleet Admiral So Young-han reviewed the final reports from the war. The human fleet had suffered minimal casualties, while the Dominion Empire had lost over 90% of its military forces. But more importantly, the galaxy had gained something it had not possessed for centuries: hope. The memorial to Captain Hee-jin Kim, who had sacrificed herself at Proxima Centauri, became a shrine visited by beings from across the galaxy. Her final message: "We are not victims. We are not insects. We are the guardians of our own destiny," was carved in stone in 100 different languages. Admiral Dae-ho Kim often visited the memorial when he returned to Earth. He would stand before the monument and remember.